What was a fact taught to you in school that has been disproven in your lifetime? The US will be switching to the metric system soon. Much of the geography I was taught in school ended up being wrong while I was still in school. Now a few borders moving, or countries renaming themselves on the far side of the world would not matter so much, but I went to school in Germany in the 80s and 90s. My parents paid good money for a world atlas for my geography lessons that I was supposed to use for several years. The next year the publisher came out with a revised atlas with a little German flag on it to indicate that this one now showed a united Germany among other things. Not something I learned *I in high school, but I learned it during that age. Essentially I was taught that applying a tourniquet in a first aid situation guaranteed that the person would lose their limb, and that it should only ever be a last resort in an exceptional situation. Turns out it takes a really long time for someone to actually lose their limb when putting a tourniquet on, and a lot of people bled to death in the beginning of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan because people were hesitant to use tourniquets. Now applying a tourniquet is one of the first steps when treating a casualty, at least in a military setting. Edit made the wording less convoluted. Also glad this is getting attention. Massive hemorrhage is nothing to f with. That insulin producing cells in the pancreas are gone for good once they are destroyed by type 1 diabetes. New research shows that they do get reproduced by the pancreas, but the autoimmune response destroys them again straight away. There is ongoing research into how to turn this autoimmune response off, with some headway being made with a tuberculosis vaccine. That brains do not generate new neurons after birth. I had a female teacher in grade 11 health teach us that guys can't pee with an erection. I told her she was wrong, and she argued with me. Source: done it. Go to the best college that you can get into regardless of the cost, because your career earnings will always be enough to cover it. No one was actually burned at the stake during the Salem witch trials. While in England condemnation by the church actually did lead to some burnings, in the New England colonies the more secular laws called for hanging on suspicion of witchcraft. I was taught in middle school that rivers take millions of years to change their flow path when in fact it's been shown to occur over decades. Link. A version of the food pyramid got an awful lot of brain time when I was in elementary school. I learned that when humans were still hunter-gatherers, one of the ways they hunted was digging deep holes in the ground, setting it up with spikes, and then luring mammoths in those holes. Years later I saw a little article in the newspaper that this wouldn't have been possible, simply because it's not exactly easy to dig a deep enough hole in the ground without modern tools. Eggs are good for you. Eggs are bad for you. Some eggs are good for you, but not too many. Eat all the eggs you can. Eggs are bad for you again. Eggs are good for you again. etc. 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 Christopher Columbus proved the world was round. During the height of the AIDS scare in the mid to late 80s, one of my health teachers taught us that HIV could be spread by simply hugging or touching someone infected with it. Disclaimer: I grew up in a cult school. I was taught that the Native Americans offended God, but were offered one chance to come back to him. This chance was presented to them in the form of the Trail of Tears. The hardship they experienced, I was taught, is of the type that brings people closer to God. And just in case you thought this lesson was done being racist, not by a long shot. Since they rejected that chance, God permanently afflicted their race with alcoholism. I mean, this was disproven since, well, it's just never been true. But it's taught at insane, fundamentalist, cult schools. Obviously I know it's a load of racist horseshit, but it's absolutely something that was taught at the school I went to as a kid, /. Edit, holy crap, did not expect this to blow up. I'll answer questions in this thread about the experience, but I don't think I'm going to probably do an AMA. I dunno. If people are interested enough, I suppose I might. That chewing gum will stay in your stomach for years, if you'll swallow it. That it's impossible for girls to be colorblind. In 8th grade science, my teacher started showing our class those circles made of different colored dots. If your vision is normal, you see a number. If you're colorblind, you either don't see a number or you see a different number. When I started calling out different numbers than others in my class, he started trying to stump me. He couldn't believe I was colorblind. He was shuffling through all his cards with the circle dot numbers. He just about refused to believe it. This was in 1996. I've learned since that it's still incredibly rare for girls to have colorblindness, but we are out there. That cracking your knuckles will give you arthritis. That things you do bad in school go on your permanent record. My 6th grade math teacher told us that God gave us buds for spanking. The 90s were a weird time. Edit. This was a public school, not a Catholic one. And she didn't spank us, she just talked about wanting to. And she was 65, and I did not find it at all arousing. That you will fail high school if you don't learn to write in cursive. Washington and that damn cherry tree. In high school, my teachers would preach that in college, a professor would never accept any assignment that was turned in a nanosecond after the due date. Experience has taught me that some professors are very understanding of their students' workloads and schedules, and will work with you and give extensions, accept late work, etc. Great, you made it to the end. Now smash that like button and subscribe for even more videos like this one.